Welcome back to another episode of the Blitz Break. I'm your host, Phil Rasmussen. We're back here on another Friday morning. And as always, joined by my partner in crime with the worst pair of shoes in all of mortgage and real estate, Buzz Howard, the Texan who loves to wear his gray APM shirt.
This is my favorite shirt.
I know.
Don't say bad things about it or my shoes, because it could get worse.
I know it could
I
get
do
worse.
still
That's
have
scary.
more super glue, so
We're
these
done.
things could last another 10 years.
If people take anything with relationship to that and your ability to lead a company, I'd be scared. But we're not gonna.
See, these babies, you can tell I take care of my people.
That's right. That's right. And today we have two guests. Very excited. Buzz, I know, bringing technology and AI and all of those conversations up happens a lot. And I think our guests today, not only are we going to be having a lot of that, but a lot of updates on really specifically kind of on the real estate side, all the changes. So we've got back again for another repeat appearance, a good friend and podcast supporter, Patrick Woods. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
It's exciting to have you back, man. I feel like this is like one of those moments where it's like, joining forces with someone who believes in it as much as I do, and it makes me happy.
And it's fun to do.
This is true.
A lot better than working.
Yes, indeed.
What is work? I'm not even sure that's the case. But and then we've got one of your kind of main go-tos here, Jesse Garcia, Maverick Real Estate, and then Compare is a new tech app you've just formed. So a real estate veteran, longtime experienced person in all the aspects related to real estate that has taken that and put to work the world we're all in the battle of right now with technology and AI and what's the best path forward. So really appreciate you joining the show. It's great to have you, man.
Thanks for having me.
You're
really
by far the
it.
best dressed out of all of us.
Well, there's three really good looking guys here. Anyway.
And then there's me.
Buzz, that's overkill. I'm not even sure I'd say there's two.
There's two.
But,
well, at least two of them are good looking.
on this side.
Yeah, but
So-
it is exciting to have Jesse here. I'm so excited to hear about some of this new technology that he's building.
Big time.
Really cool
Jesse,
stuff.
you'll
We were
have
talking
to,
about it off camera.
off camera.
Off camera.
There we go. There's been a lot of real serious therapy sessions with him on AI,
and technology.
and like, you have to do this. It's I don't care. And so we've worked him through it. We've made a lot of progress. The audience has followed him on his journey from not even knowing how to pronounce ChatGPT to having an account to having.
He has it on his phone now.
Yeah,
It's on my phone, and I talked to her.
So you're gonna run laps around him, but we've been through quite the journey here, Jesse. It's been.
I'm figuring I'm gonna write some programs because he said that it's easy. So we'll see.
Did I say it was easy?
No, not really.
I think he also said that if you don't know how to prompt it properly, that you can end up with some very bizarre outputs. So.
Yeah.
I think that is probably one of the things that causes people the most angst. But first off, I want to jump in and congratulate you on your new role. Congratulations, and also I'm sorry because it's crazy when you take on that much responsibility.
No, I felt obligated to, in the sense of it's a challenging market. It has been for a while, and the way I look at it, so I took on the regional director role for Keller Williams, Northern California and Hawaii, and I own 3 Keller Williams offices in the Sacramento region. And I could either sit on the sidelines and hope for things to change and hope for leadership, or I could jump in and grab the bull by the horns. And to be candid, I saw this as an opportunity to add value to my existing businesses. And it's been overwhelming in the sense of the first 90 days going out and visiting all the market centers in the region, because we have all the way from Fresno to the Oregon border. And my wife will say, "How was your day?" I'll say, "I'm exhausted and I am deeply fulfilled." So it's been awesome.
So how many offices does that encompass?
32 offices. So Northern California and Hawaii. So poor me, I have to go to Hawaii every once in a while.
That sucks.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Just let me know
Wow.
next time we're going.
Okay.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
How many Keller Williams offices are in Hawaii?
We have one on every island. So
Oh, that really is terrible for you.
yeah, so I have to hop between island to island and make sure I
Yeah.
visit them all.
I am really sorry.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do it.
They were just under 5,000 agents
I'll
in the
step
region.
in if
Yeah.
you need help with anything.
Would love that, Buzz. Would love that. Yes, it's been a great adventure. It's been fun to get out there and see some of the other locations, and frankly, to learn from what other offices are doing, what they're doing well, where they could improve, and then kind of getting them all connected. You know, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others.
Love that. I've always loved that saying. And I think it's actually eye-opening when you step into roles like that, how often we forget how small we allow our world to become
We
in
get
our
busy.
day-to-day.
We get busy and we silo ourselves and we go, why do I have to figure this all out on my own?
And then you just start visiting new places, and you're forced to suddenly open your eyes and go, man, I haven't thought about that in 2 years or 6 months or whatever period, because you've been so fixated on this problem and that problem and your existing environment. And when you get exposed to all these other people, offices, markets, environments, it really does help you grow in a
100%.
tremendous way.
100%. Yeah, it's been fun. Thank you.
That's really, really cool. I'm excited for it. Congratulations. Definitely. I'm going to book right now the plan to go with you to as many of those Hawaii visits. This guy, his shoes wouldn't last the flight, so he
he'll
doesn't
put
get
on
to go.
flip-flops.
Flip-flops would be good for me. Barefoot.
That's probably better, although I would hate to
Well,
see you barefoot.
I actually lived in Hawaii at one time, so I love Hawaii. So
That's pretty biggest difference when you go office to office. I mean, at the end of the day, there's so many similarities, but what would be maybe one of the most notable things that caught your attention in your visits that sticks out?
Most notable thing in my as far as differences between the offices?
Yeah, just variations.
Well, you obviously have geographical differences. When I go to Los Gatos, it's a very different market than Stockton, right? Different price points, different behavior, all of that. That's probably the most noticeable. But at the end of the day, everybody has essentially the same challenges, the same struggles. There might be an extra comma in the amount of the home for sale where they are.
Yeah, Los Gatos is like a shack for $4 million.
Their average sales price is like $2 million, right? And it's quite larger than ours. But I think the thing that's most apparent to me is that we're all in a sales environment and we're all dealing with a lot of the same stuff. You start thinking about what are the differences, and it's really, you start thinking about what are the things that are more the same across the board, and then how can we attack those pieces. So it's like I said, it's been eye-opening from that standpoint. And just get like the little nuances. You see stuff in Cupertino that runs this way, and you're like, I didn't think about doing it that way. And so you can bring that to Roseville and vice versa. It's been huge.
Has there been any real surprises of like you're going, wow, that's a great idea?
No, there haven't been great surprises of like, that's a great idea. What has been really interesting, like I know we're going to talk about AI, but to even go down to Silicon Valley, right, and have an AI conversation, have people glaze over
going,
we're in the tech hub, the mecca. Like I'm down there at an office when NVIDIA is having I couldn't get a hotel in San Jose because NVIDIA was having their convention, right? And I'm talking about AI in San Jose, and 3 people in the meeting are excited, and the other part of the room is kind of like, uh-oh, here we go again. Patrick's on his soapbox. Right?
and they're not even embracing it yet.
No, I mean, so one of the things that, not to go too far down this rabbit hole, I look at the way the industry ran for many years. So it's kind of funny to be sitting here today, because when I first got into real estate, people say back in my day, they would drop off the hot sheets so we knew what the new listings were.
Right.
And now I've been in the business for quite a while, and I start saying things like back in my day. And so when I got into real estate, you used to, if you wanted to see what was for sale, you had to speak to a real estate agent, or you had to open the newspaper, or you had to go get the magazine from the grocery store, right?
Yeah.
Then the internet came out, and when I got into residential real estate, it was literally a website was a billboard for a real estate agent. Then the portals came out, and the consumer got much more savvy about the inventory that's out there. And so the real estate agent had to level up on their value proposition because it no longer was, I have the inventory. And so where I take that is we had to get a different value proposition was I'm better at contracts, negotiation, all that, because the consumer was so hyper-focused on what they wanted or the houses that compared to theirs. They knew a lot, sometimes more than the listing agent when they went on an initial appointment because that's what they were focused on for the last 6 months. Now with AI coming out, you can plop a contract into ChatGPT and get a pretty accurate answer on things. So I think there's this whole shift that's coming that the agent has to level up yet again their value proposition because the world is changing. And that's where I think the biggest adoption of AI is going to come in. Like, how are we changing our value proposition, becoming a true professional, almost like a financial advisor for real estate?
Mm-hmm. I think it's along the same lines in the mortgage side of things. It's you have to provide something. You have to make yourself relevant, and a lot of that is being that trusted advisor. Just like what you're saying, that encompasses a lot of information. So we're seeing the same challenge on our side as the information is so readily available. You have to be on top of it.
The information is coming out of so like I joke with Jesse all the time. I feel like the guy in Limitless, where like my brain is expanding so fast and I can't learn fast enough still.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's how it feels. Like he's got his platform that he's created with AI. There's been problems I've seen around the region where I go, that's a great idea. And like 15 minutes later, I have a workable web app because of AI. It's just crazy how fast the world's moving.
Yeah.
That's the thing. The thing that the answer to the question or problem, however you refer to it, to me, for all of us, both real estate, mortgage, it really is the human element. That's the answer to the question in every scenario, because the data, the paperwork, all the like just tasks, that's the stuff that if you rely on that as your primary function and what makes you valuable, that's where you become obsolete. The things that make you valuable is all the stuff that makes you human. And really, that's the human side of it. And I think that's really the answer to the question for us all in every aspect. But it's amazing how many people shy away from that, because that's also the scariest part, like being the vulnerable human.
What's funny, the more technology driven we become, as you're like your CRM did all these automations for you. Now AI is doing all these things. Every step along the way, it's, are you actually contacting and having conversations with your database?
Yeah.
More and more, that is even becoming more abundantly clear that that's the opportunity.
That's where it sticks out. Absolutely.
And technology isn't here to replace a relationship. It's here to allow more freedom to actually have better relationships.
Be more and more focused on the right ones. And you know, Jesse, obviously having been in real estate and seen, frankly, like, I'll speak to having seen all the different models myself, right? And like, and inefficiencies, maybe focuses on the wrong priorities. I've laughed over the years at times you talk about contracts. Like sometimes, you know, on the mortgage side, it's like the one thing the agent did was supposed to write the contract and they messed that up. And you're like, dude, that was like the one thing you were supposed to do for us. And that's, and you know, you're mad the loan amount's wrong. You're the one who put the wrong sales price in there.
Maybe you should have put it in ChatGPT.
but in the, you know, experience that developed and caused you to come up with your idea, talk a little bit about your journey and how you, you know, one, got into real estate, two, gained the success and experience, and then what led to, you know, the kind of advent of the idea for Compare.
Yeah. Gosh, I've been in the business 20 years this year. And I was working for the Sacramento County Sheriff's Department 20 plus years ago, and decided to get my real estate license by accident. I wanted to get into real estate investing, And I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. And so I actually went to my local college and just took a few night classes in real estate economics. And my teacher said, you're in 2 of the 3 classes you need to get your real estate license. You could be a realtor. I go, I don't want to be a realtor. And he said, well, just take this class online and just go take the test. And so I was like, okay, I'll do that. So then I did it, passed the test, and I'm like, well, now what? And that was pretty much my first 5 years of my career is, okay, I did that, now what? And I got my license, and he said, hey, there's a new company in town, Keller Williams. Why don't you go check them out? So I did. And so I was there part-time for about 2 years. And when I got my first check, it was a referral check for making a 15-minute phone call and connecting a friend of my mom's to a realtor in Nevada. And I remember going, the day I got my check, I remember going by the office to grab my check and then going to the main jail where I was stationed at the time. And I got my pay stub that same day. And I was like, this is for a 15-minute phone call. This is for 80 hours worth of work in a cylinder block that I don't see the daylight. And I said, something's not right here. And for me, I wanted to get out of the, I don't want to say the day-to-day, 8 to 5. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a very steady paycheck, benefits, and retirement. But it irked me that someone was going to make more money than me because they were there longer, and maybe they weren't putting in as much work. Maybe they weren't as intelligent, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. They are making more money because they either had a degree or because they were there longer.
Sat there for
it
that
had
long.
nothing to do with the amount of work that they were doing. And so I said, I want to get into something where I don't care what the person next to me is doing. My results are based upon my effort. And so I sat down with an agent in Elk Grove who was still there, and she was a mentor of mine very early on. And I said, I'd love to be a part of your team. And she said, let's do it. She goes, but you can't half-ass 2 careers. You got to pick one. And so I went home, talked to my wife, and quit. I put in my 30-day notice the next day and quit. And my last day was July 31st, 2008, where I walked away from a steady paycheck, benefits, retirement, pension, all of it, to dive into real estate.
Over a referral fee.
Over a referral fee.
That must have been a hell of a referral fee.
You're leaving out a
It
detail.
wasn't.
I'm just thinking about I'm thinking about the key component of 2008, and I got into the business in 06, and I think I had like 6 good months of making money before
the bottom fell out.
Before the world caved, and then I was just too young and dumb to know any better, so I ran around with a smile on my face. In 08, with what you did, that must have been a daunting, kind of very challenging time, not only personally to get through, but I'm sure there was probably some tough conversations with the wife about that decision as well.
We didn't know any different. It was like ignorant to the fact of the market. I just knew I don't care what I did. I know I bet on me in every way, shape, or form.
Just like too dumb. And I said it all the time. I was like, I was too dumb to be depressed or frustrated. I just was doing what I was
100%.
doing.
Add in the second part of that story.
Which one?
The part about having the opportunity to come back.
Oh, yeah. So the sheriff's department said on my exit, they're like, you can sign this form, or in which box do you want to check? And if you check this box, if you decide that this isn't going to work out for you, and within a period of time, you can come back and your seniority will remain the same. It'll just be like you coming back. And I elected not to because I didn't want a backup plan. I didn't want a safety net. I wanted to go all in.
Burn the ships.
I wanted to burn the boats. And at the time, like my wife and I had a mortgage. My wife and I left her job, her full-time job at the courts, and because she wanted to get into hair and be her own entrepreneur and do that. And so we supported that for the first few years. And I said, great, my turn. I want to go do my own thing. So we were both going to be self-employed with a mortgage. Didn't have kids yet. But we still had a mortgage. We were still going to be both self-employed, fairly new entrepreneurs. And but I knew that if I were going to bet on me, I'd double down on me versus me trying to just go in and push a 9 to 5 that I wasn't happy at.
That's a great story.
Definitely, I relate to it a lot too. As an athlete growing up, pretty much my entire life has always been like, I want something where I'm not placed with a ceiling above my head from somebody else.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I want to be able to dictate how far I go.
And that's the challenging part, especially with a lot of part-time realtors. I was a part-time realtor to begin with, and I think that, you look at the association stats where 70% of realtors last year didn't close one deal. Another 15% only closed 5 or less. So that's 85% of the market that closed 5 or less or no deals. And, for me, again, nothing wrong with being part-time if there's an ultimate goal. And I think one of the biggest just mental blocks just in the economy or society in general is the golden handcuff. It's so hard to leave certain jobs or certain careers or whatever because they have a golden handcuff on you. And it's, the retirement or the benefits or the health insurance or the paycheck. Like, all of those can be solved if you are willing to bet on yourself. And, I just think that a lot of people who really want to take that initiative and really dive into real estate, really own it, is they have to bet on themselves. And that doesn't mean be stupid. Like, I would look back on what I did as fairly stupid. We didn't have kids at the time. Now, if we had kids at the time, would I do the same thing? Probably not. But I would still find a way out of the golden handcuff. And I think that there's just a lot of people that really want to dive into it that are just stuck with a golden handcuff. And I've broken out of several golden handcuffs that I've been in before, just from an employee standpoint, because I just don't think that's who I am. And it's just, you have to go out and bet on yourself. And if you're not willing to double down on yourself, nobody else is going to bet on you to begin with.
Well, that's
never underestimate fear. Never underestimate fear, because so many people are scared of betting on themselves.
But you use that fear as something that could be a powerful motivator.
I was just going to say, fear of failure is like, fear of failure can be the greatest driving force behind you, right? It's the motivating. Yeah, like you can't fail.
Yeah.
So now I have to be this way. Or chasing the dream. I think channeling it, the fear though that I think causes it is more along the lines of people having a lack of the ability to be disciplined in their work ethic. Because when you talk about doubling down on yourself and betting on yourself and working, people inherently don't want to acknowledge that in some cases it's about laziness. And like, the idea of being an entrepreneur sounds great. Gary Vee talks about this all the time. You're working 24/7. Like, you suddenly go from that 8 to 5 job and now you're always on, because that's your chance to make a living. And I think, you obviously have that gene, and I think it's just an important point. What holds people back, I think, sometimes is the fear of being willing to work hard enough at it and being repetitive with this. I have a good friend who brought this up not too long ago on another episode of a podcast I do about the true identifier of success is self-awareness. And when you really know yourself, it's easy to double down on yourself. It's easy to bet on yourself because you know what you will and you won't do.
Makes me think there's the regrets of the dying too. And one of those is that I wish I would have taken more risks. Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Well, what's interesting and what's exciting for us to have you guys on the show, both of you have been successful in one area. You own 3 offices, and I've been around, watched you progress
since I was this tall.
Knee
high to a grasshopper.
Yeah, and I've watched, and so that wasn't good enough. So now you wanted to manage 32 other offices, or to be involved with 32 other offices and provide that leadership. You've been successful moving from one thing to another through your real estate career. You had a tech company before that you created, sold, probably made pretty good money off of it, and then now you're doing another one. So what's exciting and where I'm humbled is to see both of you. You've been successful in your own right in this area, and it's like, yeah, let's throw more on. Let's do more. So that's kind of amazing.
Sometimes that's a good idea. Sometimes it's not.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, it's like, what, but both of you could have just sat back. You could obviously just sit back and just concentrate on what you've built, but instead you want to give more. So
Well, I appreciate that, Buzz, because one of the things that caused me to actually get into leadership in real estate was when somebody broke it down for me and said, when you're an agent, an average agent has a database of 250 people. That's your reach as an agent. If you run a brokerage that has 100 people and each person has 250 people in a database, you just multiplied your reach. Take that a step further. I have a passion around what this industry does to support and provide for people to accomplish their goals and dreams. Like, they get into this business to have something that they didn't have or feel like they had the opportunity to do someplace else. That's what drives me, is I want to help facilitate people accomplishing that. Because people take a risk getting into real estate. It doesn't work out for a lot of people. And frankly, some people should probably get out a little bit faster, because, like, my thought process is, if it's not for you, don't spend 2 years of your life trying it on. Go do what drives you and get on with your life sooner.
yeah,
But for the people that are in here and want to hustle and build their future, I'm all in on that. And so that's what kind of drives me to say, okay, how can I expand my reach? Because I don't know that there's enough people that look at this as, I care about. It's like an incubator for entrepreneurs almost.
right.
There's a deal that I've watched, like whether it be like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, take any of the successful athletes, but those are two guys in particular. I always struggle with this, and you both just said it. Chasing the next thing. There's this element of, like, successful people are always, you wake up, like, you have to have something that you're working on, right? It's what wakes you up. It's what drives you. And it's a great quality, and it helps us all be successful. It's also the thing that can be challenging, because then it's hard to be present and enjoy what you already have. And it can at times cause you to miss what is already in place, or to overcommit because you are always in that, like, and I have personally, just over the last couple of years, been really paying attention to that balance, listening to people talk about it, because I'm wired to where, like, if I wake up and I don't have something, like, really challenging in front of me, there's a lot of places that my brain goes that are usually not productive. Like, I need to have that. So, listening to you both say it, I think obviously having it is a strength. What you started to just allude to it, what's the downside of, like, like you said, sometimes it's not good to go that far. So to tell that side of it.
Well, I think that as I don't want to say mature, I'll say mature lightly.
But he's been better at it than I have.
As I've matured, I would say that really gaining clarity around what it is I want to do, and saying no to other things that want to take up my time. And I've had the immense honor and privilege of having opportunities come to me where they're like, hey, I would love for you to come in as a CRO for this new startup, or I'd love for you to come in as this. And I look at a lot of these different companies, I go, man, you guys are doing something great. I know I can help, but I think I'd overpromise and underdeliver because my brain is somewhere else. And so, yes, like, we'll both wake up at 2:00 in the morning with ideas and this and this and this, but you have to filter those and go, is this one of my top 3 priorities? No, it's not. Great. I can't focus on it right now. You got to put it on the back burner, make a note of it. And essentially that was how this company came to be. It was on the back burner. It wasn't on my priority list. I didn't have clarity around it. And it sat on my back burner for 2 years. And then it kind of came back to fruition. I'm like, great, now I have the time and the capacity to do this, and I could do it the right way. And so that's how that came to be. But I think that just there's power in no and power in clarity. And gaining that is freedom, because a lot of us are, at least I'd say yes to a lot of things. I'd overcommit. Then I'd feel like an ass, because then I would underperform, I'd underdeliver, I wouldn't make do on my promises. I'm like, this is not me. I don't like the way this feels. It's easier just to say no, and great, we could be friends. I'll support you from the sidelines. But ultimately, once you have that clarity, you wake up with a passion, and you're like, I know what my top 3 things are today. And I get excited about it. And now I don't have the other things that are on my shoulders I have to worry about that may or may not be somebody else's problem, just not mine.
That's incredibly insightful. And I think on the loan side, since I'm 20 years in this game, and I'm always amazed that you have top producers who understand no and those that don't, and you'll see them do, especially during some of the peaks. Let's just say 20 loans in a month. And it's like you could have said no to the 2 that literally ruined your month, and you knew up front these were like, I need a 12-day close. They own 73 businesses. They're not going to be able to get you the documents until day 6, and you said yes. Like, there's no chance this is going to go well, but you can't bring yourself to say no. And then your whole month, you closed 20, but the 2 that you should have said no to ruined your month. So much history of that, trying to teach people the discipline to say no when it doesn't make sense. And so I think that's it's funny you talk about it with wisdom, because wisdom is in many cases it's pain, and it's a kind of embarrassment or failure. It's all those things that are the teachers that we really have to pay attention to, so that we can actually gain that insight and make those decisions.
Well, that's what's been just on that. It's my perspective on failure has changed over the last decade, and more so in the last 5 years, where I want to be the person in the room that can say I failed more than anybody.
Yes.
And like, if I can literally
superpower,
if I can do that, I'm like, I want to be able to fail more than anybody, and I share it. And so whenever I have the opportunity to go speak to entrepreneurs or speak to startups or whatever, I share my failures. Right, I share my failures. Not, oh, here's what we did great. Here's what, like, there's parts of that, but it's no, here's where we failed. If I can save you 10,000, if I can save you 100 grand, if I can save you $1 million in the mistakes that I made and the failures that occurred in my journey, take it and run.
So you're saying we should have listened to our parents?
Should have listened. I read an interesting statement last night that said something along the lines: if you knew that after 30 fails, the 31st attempt would be unbelievably successful, how fast would you go after failure?
Yeah.
And it'd be like, oh, yeah. Okay, nope.
Why stretch out over 5 years when you could do it in 90 days?
Yeah. Just fail. Because if you knew for sure, and it's almost a guarantee.
But you also build a mental muscle too,
right?
Where you build this fortitude that you wouldn't have had if you didn't tackle the next failure with that mindset, right?
Yeah, if WD-39 stopped at 39, it wouldn't be WD-40.
We wouldn't have WD-40.
That's why it's WD-40.
That fixes everything.
Yeah, but that's why it's WD-40. It took them 40 times.
On the deals, when you're talking about that, before I got into residential real estate, I worked in commercial, and my commercial broker, it was just the 2 of us. He would always say, my goal is to try and kill a deal as fast as possible, because if it's going to fall apart, I want it to fall apart sooner, so I can spend my time working on the deals that are going to close and are guaranteed to close.
Yep.
I was like, whoa. It was a mind-altering thought process.
It's one of those hardest things to teach, especially you guys see it in the real estate side, and we see it on the mortgage side. One of the hardest things to teach is for a loan officer to really look at it and decide, this is not going to work. This is going to be a major, major problem. But what happens is when you're new, it's like, it's the only thing I have to work on. And I need a paycheck. So they massage it. They cradle it in their arms. They babysit it. And if it actually does close, how many other deals were you unable to chase because you were so focused on the problems of this one? So it took up all your time,
your energy,
and your energy and your emotions, and maybe even the relationships with the person who gave me the transaction. Whereas if you'd have just said, you know what, this is going to drive both of us crazy. By the time if it ever closes, we're going to hate each other. Let's pass. You
said new though, and that's why I don't think it's just new.
Well,
I think there's this, it's that innate inability to say no that you alluded to already, and I just think it's a really important thing. We all have, like a couple things that we experience. We talk a lot about imposter syndrome in other conversations that I have, but the other one is like the hero syndrome. Like we all want to be the one to like solve the problem that someone else couldn't. innately. And to me, the lesson to teach is the sign of success is the ability to say no, because like I know enough to know I'm not saying yes to that. Like versus no, I just told you yes because I don't know any better. And that for successful veterans is still hard because, you know, it's like I'm chasing being number one in the office or being, you know, being number one in the company or whatever the competitive thing is. And so there's so many forces at play that, you know, discipline is the word that comes up, and you know, like there's words in life that drive me crazy. Like transparency drives me nuts because it's overused and it's the least actually followed through with in most of our industries. But discipline is one of those ones where I'm like, it's said all the time, but I don't think people fully understand just how much it means to success. Like saying no and knowing why you're saying no and knowing what it means to your success. And then the fear of failure.
Can I add something?
Please.
Because you think about saying no to things, but then also there's two sayings that are resonating. One is not all opportunities are created equal, right? And Richard Branson said, opportunities are like buses. There's always another one coming along, right?
Yeah.
And then the other one is work expands to the time allowed. And so if you know what needs to get done, the most important thing that needs to get done, you're probably going to spend your time focused on that, and you will have way more time. If you're not attacking the most important thing, you could spend 8 hours and not get much done, which then you have to say no to more things, where if you're focused on your most important things, you'll have more time for balance, quality of life, whatever else, or other opportunities.
Isn't there a book
Absolutely.
out there about the one thing?
Yeah, there is.
Well, if
clarity.
you look at like, especially from your lender example of, you know, they take a bad deal and they just run with it and they hold on to it, is whether you're a lender or an agent and you're doing that, you're solidifying your reputation as somebody who's like, oh, well, no, he can get it done. Go give this type of client to him or her.
Right.
Yep.
You're solidifying your reputation and the kind of what you tolerate and your standard of a client. And all of a sudden you start getting pigeonholed as, oh, I can do this. And now you're dealing with not just 2 headaches, you're dealing with 5.
Right.
It's like if you do lead gen out of the penny saver, you might have penny saver clients.
Right. But I mean, we've heard this early on in real estate is if you have 10
where did you
deals
get
in the
these-
pipeline.
Where did you get all these
And
trailer?
for all our younger listeners, a penny saver. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yellow pages. But like we heard this early on is if you have 10 deals in the pipeline and 2 fall out, okay, you have 8 more in. But if you have 3 deals in the pipeline and 2 fall out, you're in trouble.
Yep.
So it's
one in the
like
pipeline, one falls out.
you're in even more trouble. So
The
it's
numbers game is the numbers game. And that to me is the part that we talk about probably more than anything is your primary job really in anything related to sales is exactly that. It's sales, right? It's relationship. It's giving value. And the thing that bothers me about our industry at times is people that don't understand that if you're waiting to deliver value until when the customer's actually ready to purchase, you've already lost. You've already failed.
You're already talking to somebody else.
Like you lost. Your job is to be out building relationships, building trust, delivering value, building credibility, answering questions, being that trusted person long before.
Being on a podcast.
Right?
Yeah.
But there are so many people who who struggle with it, and the only thing that they compete on is whether it's price, commission, whatever. They go that route because they lack the understanding of what it really means to be valuable on the human level. And I use this example specifically. Like I've been in mortgage 20 years. Every time I've ever sold a home, like I work my tail off. I literally am an obsessive type worker, and I'm not like great at switching from work stuff to personal stuff. And so it's kind of transitionary. Whenever I've sold a home, the greatest value with my buddy who's handled all the transactions is everything is handled. We need an arborist. We need I don't dude, you got all of it. Like they're
He's
your people.
person.
You take care of all of it. Like I don't want to be involved in figuring out who's going to go look underneath the floor and, you know, and figure out the stuff like, and you've got a team for that. Like that's valuable to me. The contract and finding the home. I've found every home I've ever bought online beforehand. It wasn't it was all that was valuable to me. Right. Yep. And I say that from the standpoint of, like you guys are in it. What do you, when you look at agents that are successful and companies that are successful, and obviously you've now built a software to directly do this with Compare, what do you think are some of the things that people are missing right now and not understanding about what really consumers need and want most today?
So I love that question. And I read this quote the other day where and we're all familiar with it, where you're not paying me for the 20 minutes it took me to do it. You're paying me for the 20 years it took me to learn how to do it in 20 minutes. And when I look at what I do from a real estate consultant, a real estate expert, is I build relationships, I negotiate deals, and I think outside the box and get deals closed. Like that's all I do. Everything else can be leveraged. And, all the other things are white noise or things that supplement, where you can use AI for, you can use technology for, all that. An example is recently we had a seller who, because of the market, they wanted to list their house for X. It was not worth that. We tried to tell them that. After a while on the market, no offers, still showings, but no offers. And we said, okay, they're like, no, this is a hard line in the sand. We're going to make this much money. And I took a step back and I said, all right, let me do some math here. Do you guys need the money from the sale of this? Because they already bought another house. They're like, well, no, we don't need this. Then we don't need the money from it. Okay. So if you took this amount of money from the sale at a reduced price, because you already have an offer in hand, that we finally got an offer that was dramatically less and what I believe the house is worth. I said, if you took the proceeds of this money, you put this into a high yield savings account for X number of years, you'd actually make more than you having to continue to pay the mortgage, the taxes, the maintenance on a house that's empty while it sits on the market, while somebody else thinks it's wrong, and you can get out of it right now. Once they saw that and they saw the bottom line number over a short period of time, that if it just sat in a high yield savings account, they're like, oh, well, that makes sense. Let's just do that. You have to take that deal. So we're able to get the deal done. And I think that a lot of the just thinking outside the box mentality as us as consultants is like, we got to start looking at other ways to get deals closed that benefit our client. And when I presented them with that option, they're like, well, that makes sense. And they didn't get defensive. They weren't emotional about it. They're like, oh, well, this makes us money and this headache goes away. Great. So I think that a lot of what our industry is missing is they're afraid to talk to people. They like to text or just DM people. You got to build relationships to talk to them. You got to learn how to negotiate. You got to learn the contracts. I took another agent to the cleaner years ago because they forgot a checkbox. Cost their client $10,000 because of checkbox. So you have to learn how to negotiate. You have to learn you need to learn the contracts inside and out. And then you have to learn how to think outside the box. This means you have to educate yourself on everything outside of real estate as well, so you can start to bring in other things that are relevant.
Well, that brings back, you're not paying me for the 20 minutes, you're paying me for the 20 years worth of intelligence. And quite frankly, the ability to move out of the emotion of it. Because so many people in a transaction get emotionally invested in something. It doesn't matter what. Like the price. We shouldn't sell it for this price. Well, you're attached to an emotion. You're not really looking at all the other options. And that's a great example of it, of exactly what people pay for is you're paying for your experience and your lack of emotional attachment to any one thing, but solving issues.
Mm-hmm. This goes right back to the beginning of our conversation with agents having to level up their value proposition.
Yeah.
The thing I'll say about Jesse is his clients know for a fact that he will go to the mat for them. He's got their back. There's no doubt in their mind. When you start thinking about what he just did, when we talked about them being the financial advisor, you start thinking about the industry that we're in has had a lot of conversations about affordability, right? And not saying that's not fair, but I think us as an industry have bought into that conversation way more than we should, because affordability was worse in the 80s than it is today. I'm not saying it's great today. I'm not saying it isn't an issue. But if we had the conversation, like people have been complaining about the prices of homes for forever.
And interest rates.
Were they complaining about the price of homes in 2019? Yes. If they're looking to buy right now, do they wish they would have bought in 2019?
Yes.
And I did the math, and it broke down. If I didn't buy in 2019 or didn't buy in 2020, and I had all that appreciation, we live in a state called California where appreciation is pretty good. And in order to make up what they didn't gain in equity in that handful of years, they would have to put $65,000, a $500,000 house in Sacramento. They'd have to put $65,000 into the S&P 500 for the next 10 years, cash money. The difference is on the house, I didn't have to put $500,000 into the house. I put a down payment on there, so my appreciation of $400,000 is on the down payment, not the actual total value of the house. I get leverage, and so that's kind of where I'm going with. We need to he just articulated it so well of where agents need to go to increase the value that they're offering in a world with technology and AI.
Well, and the part of that example that I've heard and really thought through was understanding that you have to understand your client and know that we all come from different backgrounds with different educations and different like parents and grandparents and influences that have taught us different priorities. And so if I've been taught my whole life that the price of the home is the only thing that matters, and I don't know any other way of thinking, I'm hung up the way your client is hung up. Once somebody takes the time to do what you just did and educated it on the overall financial picture, this is how it actually works to your benefit. You've just provided me with the information that no one else previously had. And knowing that, I think that's the part that's really huge, is that you can't offer that information unless you've done the work to figure out and be the expert that can offer it and can analyze the situation. Anyone can sign a contract. Anyone can write it and do it wrong. One of my most famous examples is getting chewed out from a real estate agent when we had sent loan docs over at one of my companies that we were in a JV with, and chewed out. The loan docs are wrong. The loan amount's wrong. The loan amount's wrong. How could you guys do this? You guys messed this up. Okay, let me check, find out what happened with our loan officer. Come to find out, they lowered the sales price $5,000, and they didn't notify anybody, and they didn't send in the notification. Well, I didn't think it mattered. Well, yeah, it does. It's a percentage-based thing. So the $5,000 change means the loan amount's wrong. And you go, wow, like, you have that up against an agent like yourself with education. Like, what scares people is making a bad decision and working with someone they can't trust, and having an experience where someone really makes a major mistake, like taking someone to the cleaners for not knowing contracts. What builds confidence is, I know they've got my back. All the things I don't know, or the things that I know I'm not great at, like, they're looking out for me. And I think that, again, being human. And so when we talk AI and technology, the people that are afraid of it, we do a lot of this show and a lot on this topic. You've got to learn to use it for all the things that give you the time to do more of that exact thing we just talked about, right? Like, be the expert that helps solve the problems.
The consumer could go into ChatGPT and ask the question, like, hey, if I put this money into this, what would that look like, right? But like he said, it's the 20 years of experience of being a professional in this industry that caused him to probably prompt it or just have that knowledge. The consumer isn't in it like we are.
You have to have the right
to prompt.
Yeah, you have to have the right question.
Yeah.
And so
just like I'm not saying about, like, my Schwab guy's probably thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
It's
Well, and both of you kind of had a variation of the time cost of money and what it can do for you and that type of stuff. But, you know, so you have to have the right questions, and that's where the 20 years of study, because there's a lot of people that have 20 years worth of experience. And you guys run into this all the time too. Run into someone, oh, I've been in the industry 30 years. And it's like, that doesn't necessarily mean that they have 30 years worth
If
of.
they start a phone call with that, I kind of know where the call's going.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That always cracks me up when it's like, okay, that doesn't mean anything. You could have been in the business 30, 1 year at a time. It's you haven't learned. Mm-hmm. So it's the experience and it's the study. And I kind of want to maybe get a little bit more information from both of you because I'd like to hear, maybe tell a little bit about your new program called Compare. Get a little plug here for you and how it works and what you think will do for agents and that type of stuff. And then maybe also where you guys think AI is taking things and where people's mind should be right now.
How much
especially
longer?
I was going to say, how much time you have?
if they're realtors. Yeah, well, maybe the most important thing, but not.
And
I mean,
we'll
there's
start the
probably
therapy
30
session again, guys.
Right.
Here we go.
So tell us a little bit about Compare because I don't want to get through this without you getting a chance to tell us about it, how it works, what does it do?
No, I appreciate that, Buzz. It was a thought that came to my brain probably at 2:00 in the morning one night. And real estate brokerages and real estate teams, their revenue and profitability is predicated on growth, right? On agents, producing agents joining their organization and them getting into a higher level of production, which is how you increase revenue, which is how maintaining expenses the right way, you actually increase profit. And so I started thinking about, well, what are the other things out there that, the typical recruiting websites and how are people recruiting? And the switch for me, the kind of tipping point was agents don't like to be recruited. They just,
nobody does.
Nobody likes to be recruited. They just don't like to be recruited.
Yep.
But they will be attracted to something. Right. And so I was started to think, okay, well, instead of, obviously people are going to actively recruit because, a lot of people get paid to do that. What if there was something out there that an organization can have a central source of truth to put themselves in a world where ChatGPT, the websites across the globe are going to say, hey, if this is what's the best brokerage or what's the best real estate team that I should be looking at if I'm looking to get into real estate or I'm looking to switch or I'm looking to do XYZ. There's nothing really out there like that right now instead of static websites or social media, and you're fighting over the algorithm, you're fighting over workout pics or food pics or vacation pics, and there's nothing really as tangible as a specific industry related feed that you can look at to really advance your career. And so Compare is an opportunity for brokerages and real estate teams to really, it's a brag board. How do you put your best foot forward? How do you tell your story to the industry in one central source, one centralized area where a real estate agent can go into this platform and go, I live in XYZ. What are the opportunities around me within a 25-mile radius? And here's what's important to me, XYZ. Great. Here are the brokerages in your area. Here are the real estate teams that are in your area. If you're looking to join a team, if you're looking to join a brokerage, and here is everything that they put in there that they want to talk about, that they want to attract. And now this is a living, breathing thing that's not just, I'm looking for a job. It's, hey, I might be looking for 6 months. I may be looking for 3 years. But if I can continuously see Patrick's brokerage on there, and oh man, their culture is awesome. They're doing this. They helped a brand new agent go from this to this within the first 12 months, or all the different things on there without trying to just fight with the algorithms of social media and all the static websites and ChatGPT and all that. It's how can an agent go to one spot and see what opportunity is available to me that aligns with who I am. And so essentially from a super high level, that's what Compare is. It's an opportunity to advance the industry from simply a recruiting mindset to an attractive mindset. How do you become a magnetic organization, and how can agents find you instead of just based off referral or I heard you or I saw this post? It's no, I can genuinely align myself with you because this is what's important to me, and I see this is what's important to you. I'd love to have a conversation.
Because a lot of times it's who wore me down the most over the last 2 years. So I finally answered their phone call. what I really liked was the idea that it's anonymous too.
Correct. Yes.
Talk a little bit about that.
So agents can remain completely anonymous. So that way they can go and explore opportunity with brokerages, with real estate teams, without anybody knowing who they are, whether they're in fear of, oh, they're going to start to recruit me and I'm going to start getting emails, or, you know, I don't want somebody in my current team or brokers to go, well, they're looking, why are they looking, and start to get it from both sides. So agents can remain anonymous. We want this to be a very safe space for agents to be able to explore opportunity that aligns with them. And a lot of people that I've talked to is like, I'm happy with my own, I'm happy where I'm at. But it'd be great to build a network within this community as well, and have very specific real estate industry news, knowledge, education, training. And I'm like, great, we're going to put that there as well. But agents can remain anonymous until they want to be, until they want to share who they are. And ultimately, it also, when you look at it from a brokerage or a team standpoint, I don't want to say bad hires, but the wrong hire is also a drain on a brokerage or a team and their administration. So this way, it's not just, okay, we're going to start to bring in warm bodies. We're going to spend more time. If I can bring on 10 people that are producing, I'd rather bring on 10 people that are producing than 50 that are not.
Absolutely.
Definitely. The other thing that I liked that you said was, because let's face it, I put together a website. I can say anything I want. I can create videos that makes it look like I'm the coolest place, especially with AI now. So what I liked that you also said is that you're going to have a process of vetting out, like the green check mark process. What about that?
Yeah, so we're still working on what that would look like, but there's going to be a verification process where, you know, right now it's going to be self-reporting. Like, you can put on there what you want to report. You know, we'll integrate in with data sources from a standpoint of production metrics and stuff like that, which is what most people embellish. But it's really hard to embellish culture. If you're putting videos, you're structuring it there, you're really sharing what your values are. You're getting reviews from your current agents and your administration staff in your office, so that way people can see, hey, people actually like being here, and it's coming from a third party. But there will be a verification process that a brokerage or a team or organization can go through to say, no, their team came in, vetted us out, and everything we put on there is truthful.
Right on. Yeah.
They use the word magnetic, and it's like my eyes lit up, because that's been my thing. Like, I've recruited over the course of my career, and I've never seen myself as a recruiter. Like, the word bothers me because I don't like to be recruited. I don't like the experience. You know, I like having conversations with people when they're ready to try to solve a problem. And really, what's always been my reward is once they join the team and we now go to build something together, it's helping them achieve whatever their goal is, right? But my obsession became using the word magnetic, and he's heard me use it all the time. Like, to me, what we want to be is magnetic. Like, let's attract to us the people that want the things that we're doing, that are drawn. And that's how you attract and, you know, maintain and sustain a long-term successful relationship anyway. Convincing someone, like in speed dating or whatever, is why there's reasons those things don't work out long-term, right? Like, you know, our industry's fraught with like sign-on bonuses and all these different things that people do to kind of bring people in. And I'm just so into being magnetic. So that word, yeah, I love the word. I love the concept. And I think it's exactly the right way. Alignment of values. Like, let me figure out what I prioritize, and then identify the places that have the things I prioritize, and then I can make a decision that's sound. The problem is, for most people, they're sifting through a bunch of BS that they're being told and trying to make sense of what's real and what's not. And unless you've been through it a few times, you don't really learn the truth until you've had the painful lesson of like, oh, that didn't work out.
I know a lot of people that are at places that have the best marketing that still close 0 transactions. They have the best technology and still close 0 transactions. Right? Yeah. The magnet's ultimately going to be in the end results. Right?
Exactly
right.
right.
I grew up in the East Bay. You had De La Salle. When they had the winning streak, I remember going to middle school, and my buddies that played football, they didn't go to my high school. They transferred and went to De La Salle because they wanted to be on De La Salle, just like modern day down in SoCal. Right?
That's exactly right.
Well,
I think that's where the given landscape of how companies can share their story is, it sounds counterintuitive, but it's limited because they're competing with algorithms and they're competing with all these other things, but there's not one central source of truth where a company can say, hey, okay, how can an agent see that we are winning? How can an agent see, if we're trying to become an attractive force, and a magnetic force, how can people see that we're helping our agents make money, that we're helping them win, that we're helping them make a difference? Not just about the surface level things that most people put out there, but what truly matters. People want to know, am I going to make money with you? Am I going to have a career? Am I going to learn how to build wealth? Am I going to learn how to take care of my clients? Am I going to be able to build a career to take care of my family, XYZ? Yep. All the other stuff is minutia. They want to know this, and there's not anything out there that I see currently where companies have the ability to put their best foot forward in this manner.
I love the idea. It's amazing. Patrick, you have such a wide range of offices, like we said, 32 of them, and all up and down the state. And you have this unique insight to what's going on in all of these areas. What do you think is the most important things from AI, leaning in on those types of things that people have got to be paying attention to right now from a real estate side? What do you think is the most important things?
Well, obviously, if you're going into AI to figure out what the recipe is for tonight, go way deeper than that. Start do voice to voice. Start having conversations. Start working through. I'm struggling with this in my business. Right? I went to AI a couple of years ago and I said, "Hey, you're my market research person, and here's what I'm seeing in the market right now. Where are the opportunities that most people wouldn't see?" And we started having this conversation. I found something where it was like, wow. It was a monumental opportunity. Nobody was tackling it. And so we started talking about that in our offices. So it's crazy. Since the first of the year, AI has moved so fast since the first of the year.
And we're talking about this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like literally and not to totally geek out on you, there's this thing called OpenClaw that came out, and that changed the whole landscape. And there was a little duking it out between OpenAI and Claude over this. So now Claude's throwing stuff out, Perplexity's throwing stuff out. Like, it's moving fast. For example, we put out this document that is kind of a choose your own adventure of all the things you could do under Keller Williams. It was a document. I put that document into Perplexity Computer. I said, hey, I'd like to take this document and make it an interactive web app. And I hit enter. I went back to the Zoom call that gave me that document. 10 minutes, 37 seconds later, I had a full website, clickable. Said, don't know what's important to you? Take our quiz. I gave it nothing, and it built it out. So, like, the opportunity of where AI is going is limited by your imagination on what you can build. Mm-hmm. The stuff that Jesse built 2 years ago would have taken you way longer, cost you tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to build. And now he's sitting here building out prototypes outside of his work hours because he's passionate about it. Like, I built out 3 websites while I was sleeping in Perplexity Computer. And it cost me 30 minutes and $200. So where I guess with all of that is just to kind of paint a bigger picture of where things are going. And if I don't jump in on the foundational stuff today, this thing is moving so fast, you're going to be left behind.
So, Patrick, we were talking a little bit about some of these things that you've been doing and that you think are really important for someone that in real estate, they have to be doing these things. Mm-hmm. You mentioned Perplexity, which is, and you had talked about OpenClaw. Mm-hmm. So Perplexity, you had mentioned that you had written a website with, you just told her what you want to do and boom, it was.
Yeah. I gave it a basic prompt. Like, prompting is so important. And then in this, it's like I literally vomited out of my mouth 3 sentences that made, I think, okay sense. And one of them is, I want to know when all my agent's licenses expire, and I want it to be a web-based app. And it goes in, and this is a Perplexity Computer. It went and started thinking about it, pulling different models. So it wasn't just Perplexity. It was pulling Opus, Sonnet, whatever. it found the Department of Real Estate website and figured out, how do I get this? I didn't have to say, here's the Department of Real Estate website, all that stuff. It just figured it out and then gave me probably an 85% done web app to do what I want to do. So it's crazy what's happening out there. And that's where you start thinking about it, like what we talked about with his value prop or the affordability conversation. Imagine having a calculator on every agent's website that says, if you didn't buy today, and we had the appreciation we've had over the last 30 years, this is the opportunity you might be missing out on. And here's how much money you'd have to put into the S&P 500 to make up for that loss. Yep. Just as like when I bought my first home, I wasn't thinking like that. I was just excited to have a home, right? But I think where the world is going, we need to have those conversations. And how are we doing this? And if now I can go, this is a great conversation to have. What could I build with AI to facilitate that in a way that's simple and understandable? So, because I'll geek out on this, and then I know other people on the other side of the table, they'll just glaze over and I'll lose them. So how do I simplify that information in an interactive way? And that's where like web-based apps and all that kind of stuff come in.
See, and this is where you and I've connected, just thought process wise, so much in our conversations. My philosophical evolution has been one that, like, I've made every mistake, failed in every way over 2 decades of trying to build and lead mortgage originators and companies, right, with trying to get mass adoption of all these tools, right? And of course the technology is so much different now than it was then. But I mean, CRMs and all the different things that have been installed, and the number of times in real estate and mortgage where people have been asked or forced on, company-wide scales, hey, adopt this new tool, learn it, and then go in and learn it, and then it never adds any value to their business, and then they're not techie people to begin with, and they just wasted all this time and energy. And then you got the number of people whose CRM, the maximum that they've ever used a CRM for is for happy birthday and a check-in and like
emails they set up when it first launched.
And then it's like the company changed CRMs 6 times to try to change it. And in the end, the outcome was still the same output.
It's only gonna work if they use it, right?
And so my brain really shifted over the last couple of years of stop trying to get adoption and start figuring out how to do it for people. Start just being able to do it for them, and then let them focus on the thing that they actually want to do and are wired to do well. There are so many professions, especially in sales, where you're asked to be so many things to be successful, right? Like if you're a plumber, you have to know plumbing very, very well. But if you run a plumbing business, you have to learn, then someone has to build the company, market, sell, like all these other things. If you're just a plumber and all you want to do is work on plumbing, all that other stuff drives you crazy, but you're a really good plumber. And I think the way human beings work, I think the opportunity that AI to me has presented is a chance to create things that allow us to do for people the things that they 100% will struggle with.
Can I share what I shared earlier?
Absolutely.
Okay. So yeah. I built out this AI agent with OpenClaw, right? And I was playing around with it. It was a big buzzword. And it sent me a text. I didn't tell it to do this. It watches my calendar. The only thing I had said is, if you can find ways to make my life more productive or efficient or smoother or whatever, give me ideas. It sent me a text going, and this is right before we went to Atlanta for family reunion. It said, heads up, you've got that Millionaire Market Center backstage pass in Atlanta tomorrow. So we got invited to go visit one of the top performing market centers in all of Keller Williams. Want me to pull any intel on KW North Atlanta to prep you? That's a 6th consecutive year Millionaire Market Center. Could be solid benchmarking for your Roseville, Elk Grove, Chico playbook. I was like, oh my gosh, it just randomly sent me this. Sure, send me an email. It sent me an email that said, like, here's the whole breakdown. The leadership. Walk me through the owner of the office, the team leader of the office, the business structure, how it was founded, how many agents it has, what it closes. Here's the numbers. Here's their playbook, their culture, their core systems. And then gave me 10 strategic questions to maximize my value while I was there. And this got me down this whole path of like, what else could this do? To your point, like I started looking at this going, what if instead of hoping that people would do things, what if we could predict the outcome for them and just take those things off their plate?
Yep.
And so the other thing that I would say, going back to the original question of how could people engage in AI more? I think the thing for us that are kind of more ahead of the curve and in a leadership position, for example, I had an agent in one of my offices. She goes, Patrick, I literally get sick to my stomach when we start talking about AI. We rolled out an AI assistant to every single one of our agents in our offices. You could call it up, have a voice-to-voice conversation, learn anything about the brokerage. What do I have to turn in for this? Everything, right? She's like, Patrick, I got like legitimately sick to my stomach. I was so overwhelmed. And we had a meeting right after that, and we're having this conversation. She goes, but I don't want to talk about it anymore. I do want to talk about this challenge I'm having in my business. And so how would you advise that I do this? And so what I did was I opened ChatGPT and did voice to voice. And I said, I'm sitting here with one of our top producing agents, and she has a question about how to run her business, and this is what the challenge that she's having. How can we coach her through this? And ChatGPT started coaching her through this. And you could watch the stress come off and the excitement go up, where she's like, I never thought of that. And so I think for us, how we get more people to engage and learn is we pull them into the process.
Yep.
So one of the things I do in my classes, we do these classes where it's like, write your big why statement. And I always watch people, they sit and they write maybe like 3 words and they stare at a blank sheet of paper for forever. And so I started creating these prompts that would cause people to brainstorm. I'm like, how do I get the prompts onto their phone? I figured out a way to put a prompt in the QR code. So they scan the QR code, hit enter on ChatGPT, and it'll ask them questions and help them with that exercise. I teach market stats, same thing. At the end, they answer a few questions about what they learned in the class. Here's your talking points with your consumers, and here's your hook for your social media or newsletter. And so doing things like that to make it more interactive on the AI front to help people feel more comfortable, and then start thinking about, how could I use this more? How else could I use this?
Yeah.
What else is possible?
That's such a smart way of doing it too. And like we talk about it in the, we're going to try to do all the stuff that we can do for you first. But then there's the part of the done with you section where your voice, your input, your need, your component, your business, your strengths, your weaknesses, all these things that are you, we want to do that with you to take the fear out, the overwhelming sensation, all of those components, so that you can have progress and see results, and then go back to doing the thing that we do, the whole done for you part, which is the thing that you and only you can do, which is have
Your
conversations with
relationship
your clients and build relationships with your partners and be a value add to them. And when you break it down like that and you start thinking about it, I think it just goes back to the human element of recognizing this isn't a one size fits all thing, but you have to approach it that way. And in my experience, the flaw in technology historically that AI is solving for as we speak is this one size fits all solution that was previously what everyone was on scale trying to fix, right? Like, give me the app that'll work for all of KW. Give me the tool that'll work for all of mortgage. Give me.
And this thing that they put out today is going to be irrelevant 6 months from now.
That's exactly right.
That's the scary part.
When I see people in this industry, whether they're a brokerage, a real estate team, an agent, with the advancement of AI, there's not going to be the need for one CRM that's going to facilitate to everybody. Like those agents, those teams, those brokers are going to go, I'm going to hire an AI, our director of AI. You're going to go and build us our own CRM. You're going to go build us our own compliance software. You're going to go build us this specifically for our business. And they're going to be able to do that. Teams are doing most of the transactions across the United States. And teams that are going to go, I'm going to hire a director of AI. You're going to go build me all the technology I need. So that way I own it, I control it. I don't need to go pay somebody else for it. Like, I just see that is going to be the theme, where these people that are in the industry that are true professionals are just going to start building stuff for their own business.
Yep.
And I think that's going to expedite.
That's what we're doing.
Yep.
Well, and the reason is because so many of those were built one size fits all, and you start trying for your individual needs. You start saying, well, what if we could get it to do this? Oh yeah, no, that we'd have to get engineers in here, and there's just no way, it'd cost too much. And you're going, well, why didn't you think of having someone create their own, they can get all of the things done that they need to do.
Well, and I think that's where I've seen this, and I'm intrigued by the existing companies that have had these problems. And like we've seen it with some of the CRMs that have installed some AI into their CRMs, and I've seen
It's a fancy
some
chatbot
that are terrible. And I'm a big, like, please don't buy into the idea of trying to sell AI voices as real that I then identify aren't, because now that's the opposite of building trust. Like if you sell me AI that is, I know is AI with a purpose to help me get to eventually the person I want to deal with, that's trust building, not the other way around of being 4 minutes into a conversation and realizing, oh, this is not a real person. But I am curious with companies that have, lots of money, have been successful, their ability to adapt and use AI to solve some of those one size fits all problems, and like how that competition is going to play out. Because like you said, if I design my own CRM and I build it and it does exactly what I want within my own, that there's this, but on scale, if I can also take AI and all the tools and like the world of money that we're talking about is beyond my brain power of scope, right? That is involved in this, but there's the ability to create solutions on really, really large individualized scales with some of these CRMs.
cheap and fast. Like,
Yes.
Speaking of CRM, like I literally built out my own CRM, my own office operating system using some of the stuff that we already talked about. Can I put a little bow on this conversation? Because you think like the thought process is, like, the analogy I use is I was one of the people that somehow got an invite to Gmail before it became public, right? So that I'm an early adopter. My mother-in-law, she hops on her computer and it still says, "You've got mail," right? Like yesterday, it said "you got mail." Today, when she got on, it says "you got mail," and so and then you've got everybody in between. What people are still adopting AI? They're using it for very basic or very extreme, right? At some point, it's going to be the norm, just like Google became the norm. And for us in this industry, we want to make sure when somebody goes in and asks a real estate question that Big Valley Mortgage or Maverick is what's coming up in that conversation. And guess what? One of the biggest driving forces of what causes you to come up in the AI search? Content. Like what we're doing right here.
Yeah.
Right? The more content you put out there, the more you utilize those resources. Who owns YouTube? Google. What's their AI? Gemini. Pretty widely used.
Yep.
Right? So just kind of everything that you've been doing and building is playing right into that AI conversation to add more value for the people that are doing it.
Such a good point. And that at the end of the day, when you start talking about showing up, it's also the validation of like the world's expanded. If I have a referral and I need to make a decision about whether or not I trust you, a website alone is not enough. I like, your website is great, but if I haven't heard you speak, I haven't had a chance to understand how you think or all that, I am a long way from trusting you. And the content component and the ways that you can get customer recommendations and referrals and all, like, that's the battle we're in, right? How much of that can you flood that's verifiable, trustworthy? I am blown away by people's fear of being human in today's day and age without the recognition that that is your single greatest asset in building trust with people. But it's what stops them from building content, from doing what we're doing.
NAR put out a survey. They do it every year. The profiles of home buyer and seller. The number one reason why a person chooses an agent is because you were referred or because your reputation and they trust you, right? Those are the top three reasons. And so you have an opportunity to do this. We were listening to a podcast by Gary Vee, and he was saying, the agents, they put out like 3 pieces of content a week. And that's, I think, generous for a lot of people.
Yes.
And he kind of chuckled. He's like, that's like me saying I did 3 push-ups. Not 3 rounds of 100 push-ups, but I did 3 push-ups. And so it's like the speed at which things are happening and the way technology is also helping to create like the shorts that will come from this, that you now have the ability to put out on multiple platforms. It's incredible where we are.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the truth, and that's what we've, everybody's just got to engage, and the tying of the bow on it for me is that I'm listening to you two talk. I listen to this guy talk all the time, and the one thing that all of us that have really been in this industry have done most of our careers is carry conversation, right? Like so it should be the one thing that's the least intimidating. You should be very comfortable, but what is intimidating is the cameras and the lights, and then the negative feedback. And the negative feedback.
Now, there is some stuff online that people probably shouldn't have posted online.
Yes, and then there's this thing that I do love, and I have to admit it's comical that like the reality is people, get very brave fingers online and like enjoy finding the negativity, but going back to having confidence, betting on yourself, trusting in yourself, believing all of those things. But who cares? Like we've now, this has come up several times, but we've made mistakes on the show and in various conversations, a couple pretty hilarious ones in the amount of comments that come from that mistake of like everybody correcting you. It's hilarious because you're like, wow, you really like, yeah, we know. We're
what else that is too? That's engagement.
Yeah, it's like,
right? Which helps you get more.
Plays right
into the hands.
Well,
it's funny.
And you flip the script in your brain. Right?
Yes,
they're picking on me. No,
you're
actually
helping me.
Yeah,
well, and I shared this with a group of agents last week or the week before. If you're afraid to do video, if you're afraid to do content in any way, shape, or form, you're making it about yourself. If you make it about the content and the purpose of it and the intentionality behind it and who you want it to land on, and you're making it about them, just accept you're going to look like an idiot. You're going to sound like an idiot. You're going to make mistakes. But don't make it about yourself, and you won't care. So as long as you don't make it about yourself, like an early mentor told me that 18 years ago, just from public speaking standpoint, they're like, because you're making it about yourself. You're so nervous. You're like, da-da-da. Don't make it about yourself. And you won't care if you make a mistake because it's about the delivery. It's about who it's going to. It's about the intentionality behind it. So as long as you don't make it about yourself and you take the ego out of it, and it's about, I want this message to land, and this is why, and it comes from a good place, the fear goes away because it's not about you.
That, man, I feel like you just took my whole, like the 2-year journey into me launching my other podcast, the Triple J Sports Podcast, was built on leadership coaching, all the coaches and leaders that had mentored me in my life throughout my playing career. And I wanted to do something to kind of reconnect to that side of me. It was like 20 plus years of being an athlete and then 20 years of business. And in the beginning, it was like this cathartic conversation. But what you just said is exactly what finally kicked me into doing it. Was I wanted to promote and talk about and send this message on to other people, and it literally had nothing to do with me. Like I felt better after because I was having these conversations, but giving my buddies who are in coaching a platform to help raise their profile and continue to grow their coaching careers, helping former teammates, grow a new business that they're doing, like all these different things was the real motivation. But in the early stages, the fear that was driving me was making the mistakes of the audio, the video, all the very things about me and messing up. So that literally I went through that journey, and I always tell people I'm the best qualified person in the room to talk to you when it comes to being afraid of doing camera and video and audio, because I went through all of it. And in the end, the first 2 episodes of my podcast, I made every audio and video mistake that I spent a year and a half worrying about. So what the hell did I wait a year and a half to do it for? And
ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude, they don't care. They just they scrape the content, and now that's your story.
Exactly. Like and at the end, like to think that I spent a year and a half trying to fix the problem, and then to have it happen to me, like just hits the point of get out of your own way and just start doing fail and fail and fail and
Stop
learn.
Getting ready to get ready.
And just keep going.
How many people do you know that have that problem? I'm getting ready to get ready to get ready to
I
get
struggle
ready
with
to
it
get
too, right?
We all still do it. Like it's innate, and that's the self-awareness is, And so I talk about it a lot, and that's why like when I hear you say it, I'm like, oh my God, I relate to that beyond words, because my wife will tell you I built the studio, I was testing it, I'm playing with it, and then I record my first episode, and I'm like, my audio was horrendous. How is that even possible after all that work? But it was never about me. My buddy, who's a head coach at University of Chicago, Illinois, was amazing at it. Like, he was awesome, and his stories were awesome, and so none of the stuff that I was worried about mattered. And I think with everything we've just talked about, and I want to give you the mortgage update here, Buzzer, there is a confidence and a discipline consistency in this conversation, obviously, right? But there's also one common thread, like service and a purpose to help others that you've touched on, obviously we've touched on. And I think if you really do focus yourself and your energy on how can I help other people, how I can provide value to other people, everything we just went through, that can be your motivating kind of push to keep trying new things, to keep taking the risks, and then to not worry about the failure. Like, it really is about helping other people. And if you remember that, I think that's what helps keep you going when you get into the, like, I'm making this about me moment. Like, no, I actually have a bigger purpose than that.
Exactly.
All right, Mr. Howard, give us a mortgage update on the week.
Well, before I do that, I want to thank both you guys. I mean, I said it earlier. I came back to the private sector to work at Big Valley Mortgage
in 1762.
Well, 16, 17 years ago. And we had a relationship with Keller Williams here. And I've known you guys since that time. And I've watched the success, and it's things like this that I love hearing the stories and seeing what you guys are doing. And all the, I could sit and listen to you talk about the AI stuff for hours, because it is something that's uncomfortable for me. He makes fun of it, and I'm literally now just having conversations with my AI. You know, her name is Mitzi. So thank you guys for being here. I did want to kind of wrap up a little bit with what's going on in the market. You know, holy crap. You know, just when you think, oh, interest rates are improving, it's going to get to where we're going to be, you know, doing more refinances, and people are getting off the fence and they're buying. So along comes the Iran conflict. Along with that is all of this problem with oil. It's all about oil, all about energy. Actually, they've brought in, you know, natural gas to the question now, but it's all about the oil, and not just oil, but the transportation of the oil. And
'cause it's all about the ships right now.
It's all about the ships, protecting the ships, because nobody wants to be that first ship that tries to get through that little strait and gets blown to bits, and not just the loss of the oil, the loss of the ship, but the natural catastrophe that'll create, that'll go beyond, you know, the next few years. So it's a real problem, and the cost of oil, the cost of inflation, just the instability. So for the last 3 weeks, it's been 3 weeks now, we've seen this precipitous, and I'll say that as a good word, this drop
better than
in the market, which means our rates have gone up. You know, we've seen little glimpses of hope where we think this is going to be short-lived and the market will start to come back. Yesterday was a great example. You know, all this week it's just kind of been crappy news. And yesterday we were off quite a bit, and it actually kind of turned around. Some of the other countries are saying, okay, we're going to jump in. We're going to help the U.S. We're going to protect the ships. And we actually saw the market go from being way off to, by the time that I left last night, we were actually in the positive, you know, sign of things. And then last night, over when we were all sleeping, the European Central Bank comes out, Bank of England comes out, and they're saying, look, if this keeps being a problem, we're going to see a lot of inflation, and we might even have to raise interest rates. but they're talking about at the end of April. But just that words, and the market, when I came in here, we were off dramatically, meaning rates were heading up dramatically.
Same thing when Powell came out, right? It wasn't the fact that he didn't cut rates; it's what he said.
It's what they say, and it's they call them future markets for a reason, because just the hint that something may happen in the future, it makes these traders, these people that trade in these markets, sell off, or whatever the case is, take their money and run. And so it's all about that. And I think that, if we can get past all of this, which I think it'll be pretty quickly, because every day Iran's ability to continue making those threats, it diminishes greatly. I mean, they're down to ski boats, I think, at this point, with bombs out there, and there's not going to be a whole lot of ski boats left over there. And so every day we're getting closer. I do think that this will rebound, and I think it'll be a dramatic. And I was looking this morning when I came in early, and I was looking at it, and I thought, when was the last time we saw this dramatic? It was a year ago. It was at the end of last March, early April. We saw this same, chart. And then ever since then, it's been slowly improving. So I do think that we'll get past this. I think that this in Iran is going to be short-lived, or at least their ability to make such waves. There's a whole bunch of countries that are going to jump in here because they're already feeling it worse than we do. Of course, the cost is worse, but we get very little of our oil from over there. I mean, we're the largest oil-producing country in the world, and so by far. And so I think it'll be short-lived, and I think that we'll see this rebound, especially at this time of the year. I think that we're poised. So I think that the message is hang in there. This will rebound, and surely if you do something right now, we have the ability to come back in and refinance it and help these people out. But it comes back to the time cost of money. You're going to wait for another year, you're going to miss out on so much, and we can still help you save money in the future. So you were going to say something.
Well, I'm going to say something on this right now. We experienced having to sell our house, timing wise, sold for less than we paid for, which was like a kick in the you-know-what for someone that's been in the business as long as I have. But this was just the way life and everything fell. Everything that is going on that you just described, Buzz, to me, I look at it from a real estate side as a buyer. Like, I'm looking at like an opportunity to go, can you get into contract on a house at a discount given everything that's happening right now? And then if you get lucky and the timing falls in and you've got a good mortgage professional, maybe all this happens and rates drop and you end up with the discounted home price and the lower rate, and it all happens at once. And you could have that perfect scenario, but forget that. Get the house at the discount, and in 6, 8, 9 months, whatever, when you can take advantage of the lower rates. But when people start talking about purchasing homes and they're playing as if they're going to pick when rates are right, I'm not, and I've got some really close, like very, very smart people in my family who will do this. And I'm like, you really think you're a lot smarter than you are. Like, you understand like the variables that it would take and how lucky, like you might as well just go buy a lotto ticket and try to time it.
I do have a question.
Okay.
But the thing that, to your point, we hit 5.99 and everybody screenshot it, post on their Instagram, on their stories, all that stuff, right? And we saw people are waiting for rates to come lower, and what happened? They went back up because something outside of our control happened that caused it to go back up, right? So the hard part for me is we have all these data points when rates go lower. do something, don't wait for them to go even lower, because we have historical reference points that they get to this point and then something happens, they go back up.
Yeah.
Like, get while the getting's good. You're never going to time the market perfect.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going to hold on to this house for 10 years, 30 years, whatever. My question is, like, normally during a, like, I won't want to call it a wartime issue, but something like this, typically don't rates come down?
So, what's typically bad for the economy is good for interest rates.
Yep.
What's good for the economy is typically bad for interest rates. So when the economy heats up and, everything's going great, the GDP is up, the employment is great, well, that's where you start seeing inflation. And they raise interest rates to slow down inflation, slow the economy down. We don't want it overheated. And so what's usually good for interest rates is going to be bad for, or what's good for the economy is going to be bad for interest rates.
So like historically, a conflict like this would be good for interest rates, but the oil price
Creates
that's
the
causing
problem.
inflation is causing a problem.
So
Okay.
they call it the flight to quality.
Right. They move
Is-
it to the
is this
bond market. They
old-
move it to mortgage-backed securities.
Right.
Okay.
The old adage is that in times of conflict and instability, flight to quality. So you take it all out of equities, stocks, and things like that, because those you can lose money.
Did you just really quote stocks?
Well, equities.
Hypothetically.
There's a whole bunch of different vehicles besides just stocks, but equities are where you can lose money based on the market. So they flight to quality is bond markets, securities markets, where it's a debt instrument that you put your money in there. They owe you that money, and they owe you to you on an interest rate, regardless of what happens. And so this flight to quality isn't happening today because
of
the
oil.
fear of inflation, and oil affects everything. Think about it. It's not just the gasoline that you put in your car. It's the fuel that the truck puts in to get it all the products to the market.
Maybe the fuel the ship has to bring the oil.
Right. So
Yep.
those ships have to spend money, then the trucks have to spend money, and so oil and diesel, gasoline, those products all have inflationary fears, and we're going to pay more money. And so that's where this is so different, is that we're not seeing the flight to quality.
Because of the inflation fears.
Because of the inflation fears. And that's where you see the Bank of England last night and the European Union, their central bank, they're saying, we might have to raise interest rates because of inflation. And, we got to solve the inflation problem. And so that's where we are today.
But that also depends on how long this goes on.
Right.
Which is your point is
And there's no real technical reasons other than the transportation for oil, crude, to be at this expense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were seeing not record lows, but they were down $60.
It is. I'm going to say funny loosely when you see average national gas prices up to this. I'm like, I would kill to have that gas price right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're saying
$3.90. I'm like,
Yeah,
Right.
I would,
$7.
Yeah, I'd buy a big barrel and buy it all. And you're right. So there's no reason for for crude to be at that price. And the moment that this crisis is over and they figure out the transportation and through that strait, oil prices are going to plummet.
Yeah.
They're going to
because they're going to have a surplus because all those boats are sitting
Oh
there.
my gosh. Yeah, they have surpluses and like I said, the United States is the number one producer. Now Saudi could be if they wanted to, they just don't. They hold back their oil. But then you have Venezuela that is a huge producer that we've kind of pushed down, obviously. But so there's no reason for oil to be as high as it is. It'll plummet, and everybody's inflationary fears will come back. And
Just
we'll,
in time for the spring market.
just
Yeah.
in time.
Well, and
so wait till next week. Let's reconvene next Friday.
Well, and this is this is your guys' expertise, but having sat on the side of the mortgage conversation for years, I mean, we all know what happens the minute that we see the reverse and rates drop, what's the counter to that? Like, so the client that's sitting there going, I want to wait. Well, and then the house that was going to get one offer is going to have 12 offers. And so now you're going to be competing.
Yep.
And like, there's always a problem. And I think like going all the way back to the solution you provided the client in that example earlier, the reality is life is a challenge. Life is one big challenge, and there is a challenge in every market, in every home buying and home selling experience. And it's putting it into perspective and really tying together what is your goal. If I'm buying a home for the next 10 years or the next 5 years, if we're more realistic about length of time, I can time over 5 years getting the rate. But right now I have a chance to go compete at an advantage as a buyer. And that's the conversation, right? And as a seller, being realistic about what can I sell it for. It takes people understanding and being willing to educate. And really, truly, what I think is the most important thing, and I say this on the loan officer side, and I would love to just reiterate on the real estate side. The cattle the herd has been thinned, right? Like there is way less people with licenses in both real estate and mortgage. And the true professionals, there are more of them out there doing things the right way. There was a period of time where if you were born and you had a family and you had friends, you could be in mortgage or real estate and make a successful living and really not do anything of genuine value to answer any of these problems that would help somebody really, other than, okay, you helped me buy it, but was it the best possible transaction? Who knows? Yeah. Right now, I think that's the advantage that's come to the table with the forefront, is that the difficulty of the last few years has allowed the quote cream to rise to the top, the true professionals to grab more market share. Somebody asked me a question like, why is it that some, certain people who used to do say 3 a month, like just fell off completely, but the person who was doing, say 10 only lost 2. It's like, it's professionalism and skill, because now you're competing. And so you're running into each other. And now the winner is going to be the one that puts more value on the table. And
here's something based on when we started the conversation with me going and visiting all these offices. All the top producers in all of those offices, they're making the same amount of money in 25 as they did in 22. They just had to work harder to do it.
That's exactly right.
They had market share of here. The market comes down to here. They've actually increased their market share. When the market comes back, right?
And they've taken that business from the less professional person whose family or friend previously that they did it with them.
From the 72% of agents in 25 that didn't close any deals.
Any deals. And that's where like the actual, that data point is great. The other one is like on the loan officer side, I read one to start 25 last year where there was actually more available lending per individual licensed loan officer in 25 than there was in 2020 and 2021 at the peak, because of how many had departed. So technically, if it was dispersed evenly, there's more there for you per person. And again, then you've got all the negativity and the naysayers. Opportunity has been created through these challenges. And so I have to say, super inspired. Buzz, it's like therapy. I love watching. It's like watching I could be really mean and say great grandfather or grandfather, father. No, watching a friend of mine like really evolve and be a good example of what our industry's challenge is with AI and technology. And I love that he does this with us the way he does it, because we get to have these conversations, and it's very much like what we're dealing with in our industry. Today's conversation with you two has been super, super inspiring for me. Like beyond, I know you and I have a lot of follow-up conversations, but I would love to sit and visit more with you, Jesse. I started my company, Triple J Studios, and the vision around creating content and making content creation automated and streamlined and custom and solving for this problem was born out of 2017-18, where I would realize like we had $20,000 studios built and one out of every 20 pieces of content we recorded ever made it out. And it was like pulling teeth to create, and realizing how many struggles exist for our industry and how important it was. And then more importantly, what you said earlier, realizing that it wasn't about me, that it was about solving a problem and realizing how good it felt to solve it for other people was what inspired me to kickstart it. And I think to tie a bow on it, listening to your story specifically, stepping away from being a sheriff, which scares the crap out of me. I promise I'm not going anywhere after my scotch, but it's powerful. It's a powerful story. Your story, Patrick, it's a powerful story. Buzz, he carried the first mortgage, as we say all the time, across on the Pony Express. So that's powerful. Like, he knows mortgage. Our whole conversation specifically that I really personally feel a strong conviction on telling real estate agents and loan officers is that is your superpower, is who you are. Me being an athlete for 20 plus years, coaching college basketball, coaching baseball, everything in my head being some sort of stupid sports analogy, and being, kind of an OCD competitor. That's who I am. And I'm a father and I'm a husband. That's my story. We need to set the stage to tell that story to people. That's the superpower everybody has. And that's what people have to stop letting fear get in the way of, because ultimately I can find right now, if I searched, I could find 100 real estate videos of somebody showing off a property that wouldn't tell me anything about the agent that made me think I want to use them or trust them. I would basically judge the property and what they're wearing, right? But if I jumped on to just a couple people, and we've talked about, who have done the work to put content out, I would feel like I got to know them just like that and go, I trust that person in the home with my wife, my 8-year-old daughter, my 14-year-old daughter, and my 11-year-old son. And that, to me, I think is what the content piece is all about. And the AI component is figuring out how do you make enough time in your day to be more of who you are to the people that you can make an impact on. So I'm completely and totally inspired.
You're giddy.
Yeah, I am. And so I look at the things that I'm trying to do with Triple J, we're trying to do with Big Valley, and the things that you guys are doing. And I think I would love to sit and talk more with you guys about what you're doing and how it's worked, because there's clearly some overlaps there. And I just really, really appreciate both of you being on the show.
Appreciate you.
Really impressed.
Yeah.
And congratulations on the success.
Thank you.
I want to see more of it. Yeah,
Yep.
That's awesome.
I want to see this guy on Compare, and I want to get him exposed.
It was not. I may want to come over and talk to you about some of the other stuff, because there's some things that I'd like to build for what we're doing, and so awesome. Thank you for that.
We just had to teach him that his search history is viewable.
Incognito mode.
Incognito. That's right.
That he can, that HR doesn't take kindly to all of his searches. So we're still working with him. But yes, thank you both very much.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Yep.
You guys are both impressive, and honestly, we're gonna have to do this again, because I think we can go into a lot more. And as always, Buzz, thank you for driving me crazy with the shoes.
You bet.
I'm gonna literally beat them off of your feet one day. But to the audience, thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Two incredibly, competent, powerful, and really, frankly, just engaging stories to listen to. And then two bumbling idiots to the right that you had to listen to. But as always, check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud. We are on all those, and then the social media platforms, the Blitz Break, all the way from the usual Instagram and Facebook, the oldie and goodie, down to Pinterest, Snapchat. Anywhere you engage with social media, you will find clips from our episode today, and we'll be sharing all of the links to everything that Jesse's got, his site, his ongoing businesses. And Patrick, you and I have a lot more to put together for sure on the KW side. Congrats again. I've got my plans for when you're going to take the Hawaii trip that I just came up with. So we'll go do that. But perfect. Thank you for tuning in. If you don't already, subscribe to the channel. Buzz, appreciate you, my man.
Yep.
Thanks for sticking it out with us on a Friday. This has been another episode of the Blitz Break. I'm your host, Phil Rasmussen. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, and we'll catch you next week.